BASIS stands for the British Association of Sport and Exercise Science and is dedicated to promoting excellence in sport and exercise science. Once you have become an accredited researcher, you must comply with the regulations of BASIS, as they have produced a code of conduct in which you should and shouldn't do in terms of scientific research. The key concern in any research should be the safety of all the participants, by ensuring you aren't endangering yourself as a researcher or any of the participants involved. BASIS covers every participant's right to be treated equally and expect you to be unbiased and impartial during the process. So this may include age, gender, body composition, stereotyping, and financial gain. As the British Association of Exercise Science dedicate themselves ensuring equality is permitted in all areas of the research of sport and exercise science, the code of conduct ensures that the researcher is neutral in terms of psychological harm. So, for example, if someone was to carry out a vertical jump but wasn't very good, and the researcher gave them continuous positive feedback, or even continuous negative feedback, this could damage them psychologically, as they will most likely believe that they are better than what they are, or they could believe that they're worse than what they are. Additionally, a second rule of BASIS is that all researchers must comply with the rules of confidentiality and data protection. This involves storing data in the safest way possible, so keeping data collected in a safe or something similar to a safe. Additionally, not releasing any information that links the research back to the participant, so refraining them from incorporating the participant's name or address, or something similar. Lastly, you as a researcher are not allowed to share anything irrelevant to your study or that the participants don't give to you. As a result of not complying with any of these, it can result in the researcher getting punished. The importance of ethical and legal issues in the research of sport and exercise science is primarily based around the safety of all participants and the researcher. Putting someone in blatant physical or psychological danger will be breaking the rules of BASIS. Additionally, ensure that the researchers are working in an area of expertise and have qualifications to carry out the research. So, for example, if the researcher wishes to take blood from the participants as part of the test, it is required that the researcher has qualifications to do so. Lastly, as the research collected is credible in order to preserve and develop the reputation of sport and exercise science. The main implications of not being ethical during the process of research. One of these being anything that causes psychological harm to either the participants or the researcher. All researchers must do this in a professional setting, and restrictions can be placed on you. The British Association of Sport and Exercise Science have this rule to promote excellence in sport and exercise science. Secondly, poor research can damage the researcher's reputation or even BASIS reputation. Also, another implication of not abiding by the BASIS rule is that you may face legal or civil action if you don't follow the code of conduct, which may jeopardise the chance of any future research that you'd want to carry out in. This is determined by a disciplinary procedure called to a tribunal. You can be called before a tribunal where a group of BASIS officers and the chair of BASIS will review your particular case to discover if you have been working ethically and legally. This could stop you from researching or temporarily or even permanently cause expulsion. So these are scenarios relating to the ethical and legal issues in the research of sport and exercise science. Scenario 1 is a study that explores the attitudes to obesity in primary school children during physical activity. The school children were asked to participate in an interview about obesity. Participation in research requires adherence to the principle of informed consent. In this case, it would be characterized by a parent or guardian, as the contributors would be under the age of 16. The school children are not competent to carry out the activity because they are not capable of understanding what is being asked of them. Consequently, if no permission is given by a parent or guardian, legal action may take place against the researcher. Additionally, young people are theoretically more prone to bullying, especially as obesity in most cases is a very sensitive subject. Therefore, this could lead to psychological damage for the children. Therefore, an informed consent form is vital. Data must also be protected, as it's illegal to release personal data, especially if they're under 18. So in this scenario, the researchers having 10 athletes do 10 free throws, each from a marked point, and if they don't get above 80% accuracy, so 8 of the shots in, they are made to do 50 press-ups and 5 sprints up and down the court. However, the participants have the right to withdraw from the test at any point. This would be included in the informed consent that they have the right to stop at any time. Additionally, the data collected must be kept safe. This could be done by keeping it highly confidential and kept somewhere like a safe, or something similar. You must not share anything irrelevant to your study or that they don't give to you. If you share this information, you could be sued, or even worse. Additionally, the research could be very biased, as they all have a very varied capability, and some athletes are a lot taller than the others, and are also in the basketball team. Consequently, they're the ones that got over 80%. Therefore, they didn't have to complete any of the punishment activities, unlike the participants that don't play basketball. This could also be very degrading for the participants if they're shooting against people that play regularly. This could damage them psychologically, as it may put them off basketball permanently. The researcher in this study has investigated the recovery of maximal sprint intervals in 4 different individuals, all currently standing at very different capabilities. They were asked to sprint 70 meters 10 times with a 6-second rest period after each maximal sprint. The participants must be fully aware of the potential risks of the study, one of them being the psychological harm it could cause through the cold vests. The cold vest may be too cold for an individual or another reason, causing them to become very distressed and them not wanting to use one again. This could potentially lead to legal or civil action against the researcher if they haven't told the participant about this before. So to avoid, the researcher must ensure that the participant is comfortable and happy to participate, and give them the option to withdraw from the test at any point. Secondly, another issue which could arise from the study is the use of confidentiality within the research. The researcher could release the data publicising the individual's data, including their names and personal details. It is not permitted to share anything they don't want shared, and anything that can link them back to the individuals. The researcher could also be biased to a particular athlete, allowing them to have a longer rest period than the other participants. This is definitely going against the code of conduct of bases. Lastly, safety of all the participants must be ensured. No one must be at risk. You should gain ethical clearance by an appropriate body to ensure everything you're doing is safe, showing some form of declaration. So lastly, scenario 4 focuses on maximal repeated sprints and lactate accumulation for adults with learning difficulties. This involved of them sprinting 20 times with a 2-second break after each one. The safety of all participants must be ensured. It should be ethically cleared by an appropriate body, ensuring that everything is safe and participants will be kept safe during this experiment, and the method is explained clearly to all the participants involved. Additionally, all information on the participants must be kept highly confidential, and there must be no irrelevant information shared on the participants, so for example their name or address. If information is shared, you could be sent to a tribunal. You could also be permanently excluded from working at the basis as a result of the outcome of your tribunal. To measure lactate accumulation, it can sometimes involve taking blood from participants, so in this case it does. So therefore, the researcher must be competent and have some form of qualification in taking blood. Once you have gained ethical approval from your research project, you need to get informed consent from your participant and must maintain the highest professional standards so as not to endanger participants or yourself. If you do not work within ethical and legal guidelines, you could be subject to a tribunal leading to a fine, written warning, or not being allowed to conduct any research again.